Happy Monday! We're back! I learned about the double espresso and the Premier protein drink, mixing it in the morning, getting 30 grams of protein with just 1 gram of sugar. It tastes so good. And for those that are about to run me down the Premier protein nutrient list and how it's toxic for you, just save it. I remember I was following these like 3 health pages or like nutritional pages, and like each one would debunk each other's information. So at this point, listen, I'm sober. I'm mindful of what I eat. I don't put poison in my body. I don't smoke weed. I don't cigarettes, hookah, nothing. So let me have my Premier protein, okay? Like, if it has inflammatory properties, let me have my turmeric pills in the morning to negate it. This call's got off to a weird start. What's up, y'all? What are we talking about this week? What are we talking about? Leaning into the fear. That's right. Leaning into fear. The source of many people's, I'd be projecting, the source of my anxiety and overwhelm is when there's something I'm afraid to do, and the resistance that I feel and like the lack of desire to lean into the fear just creates this bigger bubble of overwhelm. And I guess let's just kind of talk through how to get through it, because there needs to be a healthy amount of fear that you carry in life to be growing, to be pushing yourself, to be challenging your limits. And when I think about all the things, all the decisions, all the choices, just everything that has gotten me to this point, if I had to go back in time and say, yeah, go do the safe thing, like, okay, go back in time, undo everything in life and just change this one to the safer option, I would not be here today. There would not be this couch. There would not be this camera. There would not be so many of the beautiful privileges and luxuries that I can enjoy today. I would not get to experience because of that one moment and that one fear that I let rule my life. And I posted something the other day about how we're not meant to be, unless we're like Kobe and Jordan, Serena Williams, like in athletic pursuits, we're not meant to be the best or the greatest. Again, athletes aside, that's a different type of motivation and drive, especially Olympic athletes. But I feel like you are not trying to build a unicorn business, probably. Unicorn business is $1 billion valuation or more. You likely aren't trying to live in the most expensive home. You're likely not trying to rent out a yacht 365 days a year. Like, I don't think many of us are seeking to be the greatest or the best at anything. We just want to know that we're capable of doing a little bit more than we're currently doing. And if we were honest with ourselves about our potential and the effort that we're currently giving, we'd recognize the discrepancy between the two. So I'm constantly, I guess, measuring myself against the potential of what I could be doing versus how I'm currently showing up in the world. And that can cause a lot of guilt and shame to come to the surface, because I'm like, well, Glow, a year ago, you were doing this, this, and this. And today, you're in bed watching a documentary on cow milk. How did we get here? How did we get here? Oh, I need a sip. Sorry. I'm a little delirious. I'm recording this a little earlier than usual. Earlier in the day, rather, so I think I'm still waking up. I am constantly trying to process life happening to me while it's also simultaneously happening. And it creates this, I think, distorted reality, a slightly distorted sense of self. And something Will Smith said is that you have to be slightly delusional to chase a dream. And I get it. I get it. You have to kind of like push reality down and be like, no, like, I am capable. This is possible. Why not me? And I think 11 years ago, 12 years ago, if I'm being honest, when I took my first international trip to study abroad in the UK, the East Midlands in Grantham, called Harlexton College, there's no way I could have said one day someone's going to pay me 5 figures or 6 figures to travel and like tell people about it, what I was already doing. Like, there's no way this is a viable career. And I think so many times, if we don't see something done, we're not going to be, there's no proof. So there is a little bit of delulu because we're trying to build something that hasn't been done, or that we don't have access to how it can be done. And when you think about faith and fear, they're both illusions. Faith is believing, like, seeing things as though they were, seeing things as this verse always confuses me when you do the King James Version and the NIV. See things as though they are, as though they not. See things be. See things that be as though they were. Someone can put it in the comments. Bad Christian, bad Christian. Faith is the act of seeing things, calling things that be as though they were. Things that. I could hear the pastor saying it so clearly. Call things that be not as though they were. Faith is the act of calling things that be not as though they were. Listen, close enough. Okay, back to the point. Faith and fear come from the same place of delusion, kinda. Like, faith is like believing something that you can't see, and then fear is believing something you can't see. It's the same thing. But which one are you going to lean into? That's the decision you have to make. Am I going to lead by fear or by faith? Am I going to lean into acts that propel my faith or acts that propel my fear? And I think that's where all of this is just like, you can't do this alone. You really, like, if you are trying to chase any kind of dream, you can do the lone wolf thing, but good luck. You will hit a wall every single time. Again, that actually is a projection, but it's also the truth. And I speak from experience because I bottlenecked my business and my growth by just trying to figure things out on my own, when there were other people that were 10 steps ahead that could just tell me, like, oh, try this, or here's what I did. And you get to a point in life where, yes, sometimes you might have to pay for that convenience, or pay for that access to those resources. And other times you build the relationship and you're invited into the rooms where the resources are freely given, because you also are freely giving resources back. So it is a lot of like, but it's always worth it. So in creating this next version of your dreams, your goals, be willing to also, like, I don't know, it's hard for me to cast 5 or 10 year visions because life moves so fast that I don't want to trap myself into one way of living or thinking just because 2 years ago, that's what I said I would be doing. And I'm also humble enough to change directions or change my mind if new information is presented. I'm not stuck on, well, certain things I am stuck on, like I will always be a believer and put God first. I don't want kids. Like, there are certain things that it's not even just about doing my research, but it's just like, it's rooted in like this a large part of my identity and happiness is because I've chosen specific paths in life that are not for me. And it is not to say that other people who, have different lifestyles are going to have varying levels of happiness. Absolutely not. The beautiful thing about life is that we have the choice to like choose. We have the freedom to choose our choices. Yeah. So I say all that to say June is a really special month for me. I have this like 5-year diary. You can find it on Amazon if you type in 5-year journal. And so basically every day for 5 years, you have like 3 to 5 lines where you can just recap the day. Here's what happened. And what I love is very documentary style. Like I have a bunch of journals and like things that I write for specific reasons. Like this is like my relationship dream journal. So all the dreams that I have for the relationship, and like many of them have already come true, which is cool, scary. This is more of like my daily journal. And then I have my Bible study journal and my 5-year journal. Just a lot of journals. My, what do you call it? My business journal, which is a lot bigger. So yeah, I have like 5 to 6 on a regular rotation. So, yeah, I think I was mentioning that because documentation, 5-year journal. This is a special time. June is a special month of the year because 4 years ago to this day-ish is when I went viral or started going viral for my ally education resources and posts. And I remember I took a 4-week break off of social media. This was around the time of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, just a lot of chaos happening. It was the pandemic, we weren't outside. So I felt like we were all living this like very interesting lifestyle. It was almost like we had to modify our life to fit the circumstances of the world and the pandemic. So I just like took a break. I think I was just like watching This Is Us every day, crying my eyes out. I was still coaching my mastermind behind the scenes, and that was beautiful because it gave me that sense of community. And I think my favorite part of coaching is that like I genuinely, like it fills me up so much, giving people breakthrough, giving them comfort, making them feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. You can't always give that to yourself. And so when I have that abundance of energy and motivation, I love having a container that I can pour that into. Because sometimes on Instagram, it feels displaced. I might be in like a really motivational mood and, you know, you have someone who's like a stay-at-home mom. She's like, Glow, calm down. I don't need that. So I'm always mindful that my large Instagram isn't targeting people, like my entrepreneurial or business dream chasing posts aren't targeting people who like don't want that, you know? So I'm just always like mindful of like my audience and who's on the other side of these messages. I know I could be better about just like not caring, but I do consider them because I don't want them to feel like they're not doing life right because they're not entrepreneurs or anything. So 4 years ago, started to go viral, gained 200,000 followers in a span of 2 weeks. So as I'm writing in this 5-year journal, I'm like rereading the entries from the previous years on those exact dates and reliving those emotions and seeing how like, I don't know what's happening, but it feels really big. It's like one of the entries. And like, holy crap, 96,000 followers in a day. What do I do? What do I do? Such raw panic. And what I love about it is like you won't ever be able to capture your emotions in such a raw way unless you document it. Writing, video, photos. And I think it's just beautiful. Sometimes you forget the ways that you've documented your past, and doing it in other ways besides photo and video can be very beautiful. Because I think, you know, we have tens of thousands of photos, hundreds of thousands even, in our albums, and how often are we actually referencing or reliving them? So this feels like very beautiful and special. So I also feel like my Instagram is in the middle of a shift. Right now I'm about to release a program called the Mid-Year Makeover, and it's kind of like I wanted to kind of I have 2 ways that I'm trying to do it. It's either going to be 4 weeks or 8 weeks, but basically 4 areas of your life, or 8 areas. I have 8. So I'm just trying to see what makes the most sense. I've run so many programs in the past. I know that people are most likely to complete and like stay motivated if it's for a shorter amount of time. So 4 weeks sounds, yeah, it's gonna be 4 weeks. That way they can be like in mid-July, like already implementing, already doing, already feeling like they're on that runway for the second half of the year. So with June being like the last month of the first half of the year, it gives people a lot of time to pause, reflect, and just reset their energy. I remember when there was like a massive talks about the recession, I launched a program called Reset what did I call it? Reset for recession. I don't know. Listen, I just be called, God just downloads just programs and ideas in me. And when I think about that group, like it lasted 6 months, and to this day, they still like will send me screenshots in like on Instagram or an email, like, "Lo, we're still meeting up," or "We're still hanging out." And I'm just like, this is the coolest feeling, because it's not just about the program itself. Like, I want people to be growing without me, and I always want to be connecting them to like really cool people. And I feel like my community, like there are just pockets of really dope people that find me, and when they get to find each other, that's the best feeling. And I think about all the people in my life that I found through programs or through other people, and I'm just like, man, that's really the best way to meet people these days. It's not networking your butt off. It's not these, it can be conferences, but it's really about being introduced through common denominators and mutual friends or followers. So it's just really special when it happens that way. Okay, last week I also talked about the city that we'd be moving to. I booked, I think we're gonna visit 4 buildings. Yeah, I'm trying not to overwhelm myself. I don't know how y'all feel about like, yeah, in terms of, because if let's say you book 10 views or visits, now you're trying to remember all 10. And I'm like, I know my top choice, I know a somewhat cool choice, and then I know a backup option. So I feel like 3 is like perfect. And then worst case scenario, if like something is just like really not how it looked on the website or something, we can always book something on the fly. But what's nice is that, yeah, we have like a central hotel that will be like near all of the buildings. And so it won't be too hard getting around. And more than anything, we just want to experience the city. We'll be there maybe 3 days max. We have a lot of travel coming up, so I'm just trying to be mindful of like us not living out of suitcases. When I think about the rest of the year, I feel like I'm packing up this place because, yeah, like we'll be gone next month. Like the elopement is coming up, the honeymoon, mastermind retreat, another mastermind retreat, 2 mastermind retreats, and Life Leap retreat. Oh wow, that's 3. And they're all 3 different continents. That's kind of cool. No, 2 continents. 3 countries, 2 continents. And then honeymoon. Is that, listen, you see what I mean? It's exciting, but long story short, from mid-July to mid-November, your girl's probably gonna be living out of a carry-on. So I need to be really mindful of like how I spend this month to prepare for ease in the next 4 to 5 months. And yeah, like I mentioned, I have a really, really good friend who just got a new place. And so a lot of like my excess furniture will go to her. I'll be donating. I really appreciate someone left a comment about shelters and like a women's shelter where I can donate more clothes and furniture as well. And yeah, just feeling like I feel really blessed in this season. Even when there's still small pockets where I have confusion or anxiety, and I'm just like, I'm turning it to God. I'm just like, you know what? You are the author and finisher of my faith. There is nothing that I could desire that you won't give me clarity on. Like, if I just ask for like clarity, or if I just ask for something specific, you always show up. And so it's just about trusting the timing and not forcing my own agenda onto my life, especially when you are in that season where you're surrendering your plans to God and you're like, all right, God, I did all of this, my way. Now I'm ready to do it your way. And it's wild because if you're like, wait, if this was how far I got doing things on my own, like imagine how much further God will take you when you turn it over to him. So that's just also really exciting to think about. Exciting and scary, I'm not gonna lie. The fear of being seen, the fear of getting bigger will always come up because I think it's this American pastime. I don't know why in the US people love to do this, but the underdog, everyone roots for them. Like, oh, you got this. Oh, what a dreamer. And then their dreams come true and it's like, eat the rich, screw you, get out of here, you exploiter. Like, I think to this day, that's why I'm like traumatized from having a team. It's like you can't win. Everyone will make you feel like you need to be doing more, you need to be doing better. And it's almost like the US, like Americans, we're so addicted to the story of struggle that when someone comes out of it, we no longer know how to support or root for them. And I think it's very telling of where we're at collectively, mentally, societally. We're broken in many ways. And if you don't recognize the beauty in someone else realizing their dreams and the permission that it can give you to realize yours, it's a missed opportunity and it's sad. So I think I'm just like mindful that the bigger I get, the more people will be like rooting and waiting and praying on my downfall. So I just have no rush for the climb. I'm like, nah, this is great. Everyone talks about quiet wealth, where it's like you build something big, but no one knows that you built it. Like you just get to live peacefully and quietly in your own world. And yeah, it's just, my friend Courtney was telling me about a talk at an event where Cody Sanchez was talking about how I mentioned last week on Instagram how I've been scrolling more. And she said it was because TikTok, the average user scrolls for 52 minutes a day. And on Instagram, the average user scrolls for 30. So when Instagram changes the algorithm to prioritize small creators, that was like the words, it was all semantics. That was the words they used for marketing. But in actuality, they're trying to compete with like putting pages or putting content on your main feed that will make you stay on the platform longer. Because I would get like sucked into the content, like I mentioned last week. But then also I was like, but wait, I want to see like, where are my friends? Like, where are my friends? And it's like after 10 minutes of scrolling, you finally find one friend and you're like, okay, like I feel like I need to find another. And then like the gaps get wider of like people you follow versus content that's shown to you based on your preferences or liking and engagement behavior. So it's really, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword, because I've found really cool resources and people through that. But I also know that I guess I need to sharpen my discipline around just being like, why am I still on here? And just like put the phone in the drawer. So it's interesting. Too much freedom is also a prison. So it's like we have to create these containers and boundaries ourselves, because they won't just happen for us. And when we think about the ADHD diagnosis and how many people are recognizing just how hyperactive our brains are, it's not a coincidence. It's like, look at the data, look at the stats, look at the phone usage. Like we've been given so much input and it's stifling our output. So yeah. This is so good. This is so good. In conclusion, I have a couple things happening this week. Depending on when you watch this, I'll be the opening keynote at the Circle Summit. Really excited about it. I'll be talking about 2 decades of lessons and mistakes as an entrepreneur. I will also just be sharing like trends that I think are going to be happening in the future, and just kind of vision casting where I think the future of business and creator businesses are. I think we tend to have a lot of blind spots when we're building a business, and I'm grateful that my entrepreneurial bone was like, bone? I was gonna say my bone was itched. My entrepreneurial itch was scratched. There, she always comes back. Might take a minute, but she always comes back. My entrepreneurial itch was scratched, at 5 years old when I was selling cough drops in like kindergarten. And my creative itch was scratched at 11, so a few years later. So I feel like I developed entrepreneurial skills before my creative ones, and that allows me to approach my creative pursuits and creative businesses with a little more strategy than others. And that starving artist, mindset and mentality, there's truth in it, of course, because when you attach money to your art, it can dilute the message. It can make the process more convoluted. So I understand and empathize with the people who are just like, no, I'm not going to sell out, for the sake of capitalism. But I think conscious capitalism is also a thing. And it's not about having a capitalistic pursuit when you're building a business. It's just recognizing the value of what you do in the world and being well compensated for it. I'll always remember this mantra from this book that my friend told me about, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And the mantra is, I do wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. I do wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. And if you tell yourself that and not just believe it, but like you do the work to make it a reality, it's beautiful. Because it's nice to know that like what you do is needed and it's beautiful and it's necessary and you're well compensated for it. I think compensation will always be subjective, like what one person charges versus what another charges. Like what are they basing it off of? Who knows? And whatever your get out of bed price is doesn't have to be measured against, what the market tells you it should be. You just have to recognize like, you just have to create a business model that works for you. Anyways, more on this on Tuesday during my talk. So I'm just really excited for that. And I have a couple friends coming over, really excited to just chat with them. I'm like more and more leaning into community. Like I was that lone wolf girl like for many years, and I have no interest or desire to be that anymore. And I think something about your mid-30s, I'm 34, something that I'm like recognizing is happening is that I'm more unapologetic about my preferences in friendship. In the past, I would have let people get away with like things that I would have considered like toxic or mean. And now I just call it out and I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that in my life anymore. And you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to have friendship preferences. You're allowed to like tell someone kindly, like this behavior doesn't align with my values or how I want our friendship to go. And so I can't do this anymore. And it's hard because friendship breakups or hard conversations in friendships, no one gave us scripts. No one gave us there's no practice. There's no perfect time for it to come up. I'm learning the hard way that sooner is better. I also know that sometimes you're like, well, maybe they're going through a hard season. Let me give them grace. Let me just, see if this is who they are or if that was just like a moment in time. And the more you get confirmation, like, no, look, this is who they are. Like, it's okay. And I feel like the last 4 years, I've been like trying to believe that people aren't who they are. And I'm like, no, look at the proof. And nothing is wrong with who people are. Like, people are allowed to be who they are, but I'm allowed to have friendship preferences. And I don't think I gave myself that permission a couple years ago. I just found a way to like lower myself or minimize myself to tolerate and accept anyone's behavior. And it's like wild to say that out loud because I'm like, girl, you deserve everything. Because I'm like a very loving, kind, and generous person. And so like, if I'm not feeling that back, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I forcing this to work? Okay, I'm gonna get cut off because it has like a 30-minute span. I just be yapping. So thank y'all for joining. I will see you next week. And don't be afraid. Lean into the fear.